Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Downriver Rescue Connection. I'm your host, Patty Radikovich, and it is my pleasure to bring you information on animal-related topics and the animal rescue community. On today's episode, we have a very special guest that I'm really excited about. On the show, we have a wildlife rehabilitator just in time for the spring so that you know what to do when you find those little wild baby animals out there, and also when you find an animal that's injured. So I'd like to introduce our guest. She is a licensed wildlife rehabilitator, Keirstie Carducci. So welcome to the show, Keirstie.
Thank you for having me.
So Keirstie, tell us first of all, you're a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. What does that mean?
That means I am licensed and inspected by the Department of Natural Resources. We have to go through specific training, and we basically take in animals that are in need, usually babies, and we feed them, care for them, and rehabilitate them to the point where they can go outside in the release cages before we release them. So you would never just want to take something in and feed it a couple times and just let it go, or just because its eyes are open. So
that's right. So you're trying to get them back so they can be released back into the wild.
Yes, back into the wild, right, without becoming a pet.
Right. So, all right, and there's a lot of different rehabilitators in the area, and if you want to know which rehabilitator is in your area, you can check the Department of Natural Resources website. But Keirstie, you deal mainly with mammals, correct?
Yes.
And you're in Ottawa Lake?
Ottawa Lake.
Okay.
That is in Michigan. Yes.
Right. So it's Ottawa Lake, Michigan. So you'd have to find somebody that's in your area, and you would give them a call and let them know what the problem is, and they would help you to figure out what to do. So Keirstie's going to walk us through some of the basic things that a wildlife rehabilitator does, and also give us some tips on what you can do if you find a baby animal in the wild. So we have a lot of information, so let's get to it. So first of all, let's talk about rabbits, because you see baby rabbits everywhere, and unfortunately a lot of people think the best thing to do is to pick up the rabbit and take it to a vet, and they're trying to do the right thing, but it really ends up being a death sentence for that animal. So tell us a little bit about rabbits and what you do if you find baby rabbits.
Okay, first of all, vets don't handle wildlife unless they also are licensed by the state. They really don't know what to do with them. People think because little baby bunnies that are, you know, teeny tiny are hopping around the yard that they need to be rescued. They actually don't. Usually just leave them alone. The only time you would rescue a baby bunny is if it were cold or skinny or dehydrated, and then you would know the mom is not there. Moms do not stay with the babies. They're only with the babies for maybe 5 minutes a day. That's it, morning and at night. And they just leave them alone all day long, and that's so predators can't see them going there. So they're in and out, gone.
Okay.
So you can always check by, you know, feel in there, and if the babies are warm and fat and healthy, leave them alone. Just leave them alone.
So now what do you do, like for instance, I have a dog that likes to root around and dig up baby rabbit nests, unfortunately. So what do you do in that situation where an animal has disturbed the nest and you see some babies and maybe their eyes aren't open yet? Is there a way to put them back without trying to take them to a rehabber?
Yes. Baby bunnies are probably the worst things to take in because they stress out so easily and die. Nobody wants to take in baby bunnies because you could feed them for days and then they just don't do well in captivity. So it's a lot of work and a lot of time, and then most of the time they just die. So if your dog destroys a nest, you can take the materials that you find and you can move the new nest up to 10 feet away somewhere in that area, or keep your dog inside, and hopefully when mom comes back she can move the babies herself. All babies of every kind are way better off with their moms.
Okay. And so
than with us.
If you were to move the nest, like do you have to dig a hole or
yes.
what? Okay. And
yes,
so how
about
do you
3 inches deep, and you just take all the materials you find, and it's usually rabbit fur and sticks and twigs and grasses, and you put it in a nice pile, put the babies in, cover it up with more grasses, and then you can put sticks across to see, usually in a tic-tac-toe pattern, to see if mom has come and gone, or you could watch.
Okay. And then I saw some statistics, like what's the percentage of baby bunnies that actually survive if somebody does have to take them in? It's very low from what I've seen.
It's very low, yes. I know I sent you some information and it said 10%. Ours is a little higher. It's about 50-50.
Okay.
Yes. And they can look healthy and like things are going great and you think you got the hang of it, and you can go get the release cage ready and you come back and the baby bunny's dead. So you just never know.
All right, so for rabbits, the most important thing is if you see babies and they look healthy and they're hopping around, that's just new babies exploring the area, so you really want to leave those alone. Don't pick them up and try to take them somewhere because you're actually doing more harm than you would be good. So let's talk about squirrels. That's another mammal that out there, and you see sometimes, we don't often see little baby squirrels.
No.
And there's a reason for that, which you'll tell us. So what do you do if you do happen to see a baby squirrel?
Usually if you find a squirrel, it's because a predator disturbed the nest or it got blown out of a tree, and sometimes the moms will kick them out if there's something wrong with them. Moms always know when there's something wrong with the babies, and they will discard them. We don't know that, so we take them in and do our best, and you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. If you find a baby, they're born pink and they're very tiny, and their eyes are closed, their ears are shut, and if you find it on the ground and it's cold, you can put it in a box and put fleece in the box and set the box at the base of a tree that you think the nest is in. The nest is usually 60 to 80 feet up in the air, so you're not going to get the baby back in there.
Right.
You can set it at the base of the tree, make sure it's warm, and keep checking on it. By the end of the day, if mom has not come back, she's not coming back.
Okay.
So you would take it in and call a wildlife rehabilitator, a licensed.
All right, so your best bet then, first of all, is to try to get a box, put some fleece in to keep it warm, put them in the box, put it by the tree in the hopes that the mom will come back. And if not, then you can go to call a wildlife rehabber to ask what you should do.
Yes.
All right, so another common animal that we see are opossums, or possums. People call them both ways. So tell us a little bit about the opossum and what you would do if you come across one.
Usually we find possums on the side of the road dead. So what you would want to do is check to see if there are babies, and the babies are in the pouch. Possums are marsupials, so they do have a pouch. So you will have to stick your hand in the pouch and see if there are any babies in there, and you would want to remove the babies. And possums are different because you don't bottle feed possums, and when they're that little and still in the pouch, it's very difficult. We have people who do just possums, and they are easy once their eyes are open, but when their eyes are not open, they're very difficult to feed because you can't bottle feed them.
So now the question is, now everybody knows that possums play dead.
Yes.
So if you see something on the side of the road, how do you know if it's actually dead or if it's just playing dead? Because nobody wants to get bit.
No, you definitely don't want to get bitten. Usually they don't play dead on the side of the road. They've been hit. And if they are injured, you definitely don't want to stick your hand in the pouch with an injured possum.
Right.
You will have to leave it alone.
Okay.
They bite hard.
All right. So, so we've talked about rabbits, we've talked about squirrels, we've talked about opossums. What about raccoons?
Raccoons are another one. Moms will never leave baby raccoons. So usually when somebody finds a baby raccoon, it's because mom is gone. And they will, usually after about 2 or 3, maybe 4 days, they'll go looking for mom or just some way to get food. They'll try to get food out of a tree stump if they could. So usually when you see a baby raccoon, it needs to be rescued. Not in every case, but usually that's the case. Unfortunately, we don't have enough people doing raccoons, and so they get turned away. So you can't, raccoons are not something when they're babies you can just collect, even if their eyes are open, and just release it somewhere else. They're just going to die. And usually you can't take the mom with the baby and release them. Mom's going to take off and just leave the babies. Very rarely will she come back and get them.
Okay, now this is a little off topic from the raccoon baby, but some of the information you sent me was about raccoons and the clans, and there's a lot of people that will try to catch a nuisance raccoon and then relocate it, and that's not the wisest thing to do. Can you tell the viewers why?
Well, it's against the law, first of all.
Okay.
Yes, we have to have release sites, so that means we go around to, I can release on my property because we've got 10 acres and we live in the country. I would never want to flood the area with raccoons, but we have sites where people allow us to release certain animals on their land as long as they don't hunt. And so we can release several of them at a time because they do need their family unit to hunt and eat and stay warm and safe. And so you can't just take a baby raccoon or a raccoon and just dump it somewhere else. It will not live.
Okay. So they rely on their social structure
Yes, they do.
in order to survive.
Yes.
Okay, and then you actually rescue a lot of fawns at your facility, correct?
Yes, fawns are what I specialize in.
Okay,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about fawns.
Fawns, about half the fawns we take in every year don't need to be rescued. Moms will leave the baby fawns for hours at a time. Fawns don't have a scent, so usually the mom will give birth, clean the baby up, feed it, and then move it somewhere else. And then she's off in the distance somewhere, and the baby is sleeping. So a lot of times people will stumble on the fawn. The mom is in the woods somewhere, but they will pick up the fawn and take it home thinking there's no mom around, the baby needs to be rescued. If the baby is not crying, it's not dehydrated, or looking distressed, broken bones, maggots, or anything like that, it does not need to be rescued.
Okay.
So a lot of times people will take them home, they keep them overnight, or they keep them for a week, and then it's too late to give the baby back. A lot of times overnight, we can have them take them back, the baby back to the site and reunite it with the mom.
Okay.
That happens
Okay.
a lot.
All right, well, that's good information to know about babies. So tell us a little bit about, like, let's say somebody finds an injured wildlife. Doesn't have to be a baby, could be an adult. What should somebody do?
That's difficult because most vets won't help with wildlife when they're injured. They don't. They just don't take them in. A lot of times with wildlife, we will take the injured ones in. We are not vets, though. That's the biggest problem. So I can't set a broken leg. I can clean a wound, and a lot of what we get are maggots, a lot of maggots. So we can clean out maggots and bandage wounds. And when something comes with a broken leg, a lot of times, we do the best we can. We can put it on antibiotics and pain medication and give it time to heal. And we've released several that way, where you just give it time to heal and you let it, recuperate, and it can be released and be just fine.
Okay, great. So now you have brought a lot of supplies here that we can show the viewers, like some of the things that you would do when you're caring for these orphan baby animals or any of the injured wildlife. And you can demonstrate to us what it is that you do and some of the supplies. And I want people to know, too, that this is not something that's cheap.
Not by any means.
So, and let me just ask you real quick, where do you get the money from to help the wildlife?
I have a very nice husband. You don't make a dime doing wildlife, no.
Okay,
Yes.
and you don't get money from the state?
No.
And that's, I think, a big misconception that people have, is they really think that the state gives these wildlife rehabilitators money, and that's not the case at all. So really, you rely on donations from the public or you're self-funded to do this. So why don't you go ahead and show us some of the supplies you brought and how you would use them.
Well, in my case also, you wouldn't have to be as big as my facility is. I take in all small mammals that we have in Michigan. You can specialize in bunnies, possums, raccoons. You can do one litter. You can do one animal. You can do, as many as you want. So that kind of depends on it, too. So mine is a little bit more expensive because I do take in everything. These are some of the formulas we use. This is what we use for, this you can only get online, too. This is for possums, squirrels, bunnies. It's called Zoologic 3340.
Okay.
Possum, squirrels, and bunnies is what I use that for. The Espalac and the KMR, it's kitten formula and puppy formula. I use that for raccoons, and you can mix the two, or you can, the KMR is complete all by itself. If you're using Espalac, you have to add taurine. This already has taurine, so I just use this.
Okay.
But you can mix the two. This is a little bit cheaper than this. As the animals get older and their eyes open, you can add the baby cereal, rice cereal, oatmeal, pretty much anything, and it just helps the formula go further and the baby stay fuller. And there's also a program called Fur Free. It's through the Buffalo Exchange and the Humane Society of the United States, where people donate their old furs and we recycle them. So we cut them up and we use them for babies. We line the cages and it makes the babies feel comfortable, and it's a nice program.
Okay.
These are some of the feeding syringes that we have, and this is really why you want to take the babies to wildlife rehabilitators. Nobody normally is going to have all this stuff in their house. Special syringes and tops for pretty much any baby you take in. These are for fawns. This is what we use for fawns, so we save our water bottles and recycle those. And raccoons, I do a lot of feeding. I rarely use these. because I have more control with the syringes. But when you're feeding a baby animal also, people think that you would hold it on its back, and you don't. What you want to do is roll up a towel, put a piece of fleece on top, because their nails will stick to the terry cloth. They don't stick to fleece. And you would feed it this way. If formula comes out the nose, you want to stop feeding immediately, turn it up like this, and wipe the formula away, and then put the animal back for at least 10 minutes before you finish feeding.
Here, we will demonstrate here to make sure that all the viewers can see. So you would again,
yep. Keep the animal upright this way, so he'd have this little pillow to lay on, and you would feed it like this. And the syringe is nice because as they feed, this plunges in, and if they stop feeding, you can give it just a little push. You would never want to squirt. A little push to control, and sometimes they suck too hard, so this goes in too fast. That's when it comes out their nose, and you could drown them. So to avoid that, you have control over the plunger. So you would feed them in this position, and then if formula does come out their nose, you stop right away, and you turn them in this position.
Okay.
And wipe their nose away, and then you leave them alone for at least 10 minutes.
Okay. Not that the general public would be doing this at home, because it is illegal to take in the wildlife and try to feed it on your own, but we wanted to give you some idea of what it's like for a wildlife rehabilitator when they have a baby animal, what they do and how they go about feeding it. Now, the time, now we talked a little bit about the bunny, it is kind of expensive to do this. What about the time commitment?
Right now, during rehab season, you never see your family. It's an 18-hour day, pretty much, 7 days a week. So it's not a hobby. You don't get to just walk away. It's 7 days a week, and you feed every infant that comes in between 5 and 8 times a day. At first, when they're neonates, when they come in small, and then that goes down to like 4 times a day, 2 times a day, 1 time a day. Then you move them out to the release cages, and they eat out there, and your life becomes a lot easier. But that's not until usually August. So between March and August, you really don't see much of your family when you take in as many animals as we do.
Okay. Now, do you have people helping you?
No.
No? No. So, as a wildlife rehab, let's say somebody wanted to volunteer. Is that allowed, first of all?
It is allowed, and you can sub-permit. They do have courses online through the IWRC and the NWRA, where you can take online courses. The courses don't really help you with the, you need the one-on-one. You need to handle the animal before, to get an idea. So that's not something you can learn online. Yeah, there's a lot of, you can take classes, you can volunteer, you just have to have somebody who will take volunteers. I normally don't, because it's really hard to stop what you're doing to try to train somebody, and volunteers, they show up and then they don't show up. And
we know all about that in the animal rescue world.
You need to rely on that. You can't take animals in based on volunteers, so I take them in based on what I can handle.
Okay. And that's a good strategy to have with anything. It's just you should only take in what you can handle yourself. So I want to help you get the message across to the public of some of the things, like the biggest mistakes that the general public makes, even though they have good intentions. And one of those I know is dropping animals off at the facility. And that's a big no-no.
Yes, people just show up and expect us to take things. We do this out of our home. This is not, there's no building or shelter, or rehabbers do this out of their home. So all the money comes out of our pockets. You do take in a few donations, but it doesn't cover pretty much anything. So you really want to call the facility to make sure they're, first of all, accepting that animal that you have and that there's room. A lot of times there is no room. I've had up to 89 raccoons at a time one time because I couldn't tell anyone no, and that almost killed me that year.
That's a lot of animals.
You do have to, well, that's in addition to everything else too, so that was kind of overkill there. So you do have to learn how to say no.
Okay, so that's something that for the public, like I said, you need to go to the Department of Natural Resources website and find a licensed wildlife rehabilitator in your area. And then you do need to call them and find out if it's something that they can take. don't ever take an animal out of the wild and then just dump it at somebody's house. You don't even if you find a facility, you don't even know if that person is going to be there. Perhaps they've gone on vacation or to some conference, not that you really probably get vacations, but they may have gone for additional training, and plus when you just dump an animal off, they don't have any information about the animal and they don't know how to help it and where it came from, and I'm sure you have to report statistics back to the state, and so you really do need to call first and get a hold of somebody, and sometimes you're not able to take the animals in. Like she said, right now, raccoons, it's very difficult to find somebody who's able to take raccoons. And sometimes just them giving you advice on what's the best you can do for the animal, and then you just have to, let nature sort itself out. And I know that may sound like a harsh thing to do, but at the same time, we just don't have enough people to help with this. And you don't want to do anything illegal. You don't want to do anything to endanger the animal further, and you certainly don't want to do anything to endanger the people that are involved as well. So, okay, well, that is some very good information, and I wanted to thank you very much for coming on our show and talking to us about everything and showing us how what you do with the babies. And Keirstie is with Outback Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, and we'll put the information up for that at the end of the show as well as on our website. And so if you wanted to find out more information about her, you can give her a call. And then we'll also have, she provided a lot of information to us that we couldn't include all of the information on the show. We will put that information on our website as well, which is basilsbuddies.org. So if you have questions about wildlife, you can go there and check it out. So Keirstie, is there anything else that you wanted to let the viewers know about wildlife?
Well, always call. If you've got a question, that's a lot of times people will call. There's baby bunnies running all over my yard, especially after the rain. Call us. That's what we're there for. That's what we do.
Okay.
So
great. So at this time, I would like to bring out some of the adoptable animals that we have locally, and we have just a few cats that are coming from the Wyandotte Adoption Center. So Elisa is going to come on out here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about this cat.
Hi.
Hi, Elisa. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us. This is Silas. He was an owner-surrendered boy. He's one of our special cases. He has an old healed break in his back leg, so he he can still run and get around really well, but you can tell that it still slows him down a little bit. He also came in as a declawed cat and with an eye issue. He was owner surrendered, so we don't really know why they dumped him in a pound in that condition. But
okay.
But he couldn't be a sweeter boy. He's super affectionate, and he also has a broken tail. If you can show, and he looks like a little lemur, and it actually will
Silas?
curl up on you like a lemur.
Oh, okay. So
he's an adorable boy.
Silas. And we are going to bring out another cat to look at. Keirstie, did you want to hold Silas? Okay, we'll pass Silas on over to Keirstie. Now, who do we have here?
Now, this is Dinger, which you'll get if you're a baseball fan. He was actually caught in a live trap, which a lot of super friendly cats are because they don't know how to avoid them. So he was clearly just an outside stray who got away. He's also front paw declawed. He is a really nice boy. He's really wiggly. He likes to move around a lot. But he's very affectionate, too. He's neutered as well. Both of these guys have been combo tested for feline AIDS and feline leukemia, and both are negative.
Let's see. We'll see if Dinger would like to sit on my lap. There we go. See, he just needed a spot to curl up. Now we have the last one that we're bringing out today, and this is Powell, correct?
Yeah, this is Powell, and he is a really great guy, too. He's a little bit of a sad case. He was found as a baby begging for food at people's doors until finally somebody took him in and got him into rescue. But sadly, he has been in rescue for about a year now and still hasn't been adopted, which we don't know why. He's a wonderful cat. Everybody loves him, but he just can't seem to find that person that wants to make a commitment and take him home.
Okay.
He's also obviously neutered and FIV, FELV negative.
Okay. Now these guys again are available at the Wyandotte Adoption Center, and you guys are now part of Downriver Central Animal Control.
Right.
And they actually are going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. So they'll tell us more about that new venture. And then you guys have other cats and other dogs in your facility as well.
We do. We have about 40 cats right now, as well as about 8 dogs. So.
Okay, so if you're looking to adopt a pet, head on down to the Wyandotte Adoption Center. And what's the address?
It's 1170 Grove.
1170 Grove Street. So I wanted to thank Elisa for bringing on the cats. This is Powell and Dinger and Silas, again available at the Wyandotte Adoption Center. And I especially wanted to thank Keirstie Carducci for coming on our show to talk to us about wildlife and what you do if you find a little baby or injured wildlife. So thank you guys both for coming on the show. We look forward to a day when all animals are treated like pets and everyone has a home. Until that time, we invite you to be part of the solution. And please remember, please spay and neuter your pets. See you next time.
Bye-bye.